I want me, mine, now.
You know you're responsible for what you hear. You know you're responsible for what you hear.
Greetings and welcome to Thoughts from Maharrey Head, the weekly podcast where I talk about, well, whatever happens to be bouncing around inside my head at the moment, but mostly focusing on constitutional issues and political decentralization. This is episode 116 of Thoughts from Maharrey Head, and I appreciate you tuning in. This week, I'm going to talk about stupid partisan politics. Well, I am back behind the mic after a couple of weeks off. 2 weeks ago, I was traveling, and then last week I was sick and just did not have the voice to do a podcast. But I am back now. I'm going to get an episode out, and then I will be gone again next week. I'm actually heading down to New Orleans for the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus Human Action event. I'll be joining 10th Amendment Center Executive Director Michael Bolden. He's going to be speaking at the event. I think Tom Wood, Scott Horton, Bob Murphy, a whole bunch of great people are going to be down there. So I'm really looking forward to it. And if you're going to be in New Orleans for the Libertarian Convention, then look for us. We will be around. I would love to talk to you and meet you in person. So this week I want to talk to you about a subject that is absolutely driving me bonkers right now, and that is stupid partisan politics. And all of this kind of came to a head this week after I posted on my Facebook page the following. I said, if your constitutional argument is Obama did ... then you have no principles. And really what I was saying is, if that's not clear enough, is that if your argument, your constitutional argument involves it's okay because the last president did whatever, then you don't really have a constitutional principle. You're playing stupid partisan politics. And it was really frustrating because I actually posted this kind of thinking about the whole Space Force thing. And I had just posted earlier that the president does not have the constitutional authority to create a branch of the military. That's something that Congress should do. And I posted that, and I started getting the, well, where were you when Obama was doing? I was right here complaining about all of the things Obama was doing. But it was almost like because Obama violated the Constitution for 8 years, now that Trump's in charge, that's cool. He can violate the Constitution because that's the precedent that's been set. So that's why I actually made the post, because if that's your argument, if your only argument is, well, the other guy did so-and-so, then you do not have any constitutional principles. And I would say the same thing to all of the Obama supporters who for 8 years said, well, it's okay for Obama to do so-and-so because Bush did it. You know, it's like, oh, we can drone children in faraway lands because, hey, Bush did it. Well, no, that's not a reason. That's not an argument. It's team politics, and team politics is dumb. I will never play that game. And it was funny because on that Facebook thread, I had some guy saying, oh yeah, well, for 8 years you were cheering on your hero. Like Obama was my hero. Dude, you do not know me, because anybody that knows me, anybody that's been following my work for any amount of time knows that I was critical of Obama every time he violated the Constitution, and that was plenty. And you know what? Every time that Trump violates the Constitution, I'm going to be just as hard on him, because the Constitution is my foundation. That's what my default position is when it comes to American politics. Follow the Constitution, every issue, every time, no exceptions, no excuses. That's what we always say at the 10th Amendment Center. And it's funny because we had all of these people that supported us when Obama was in office. And now all of a sudden they're mad at us and they're telling us things like, well, you guys need to not be so extreme. Quit being so hard on the president. You got to cut him a little slack. If you're mad at me because I'm criticizing Trump and you weren't mad at me when I was criticizing Obama, then you're the problem. You're the one that's changed because my message hasn't changed a bit. And I really want to encourage people that are listening, and I know a lot of you that listen regularly, you're right on board with this. You have your political principles, and that's what you're sticking to. But if you're playing the stupid partisan politics game, I want to encourage you to stop. You need some type of principle. And again, if we're in America, and we are, if we're going to have a government system in the United States, then it is based on the Constitution. That is the highest law of the land, not what President Trump says, not what President Obama said, not what some justice on the Supreme Court says. The Constitution is the foundation. And I was thinking today when I was driving, I spent a little bit of time with my son this afternoon. I was driving home, and I was thinking about the story in the Bible where Jesus talks about building a house on the sand. If you build a house on the sand, then the wind's going to blow and the tides are going to rise and your house is going to blow away. If you build your house on a firm foundation of solid rock, when the winds come and the storms rage, your house will stay in place because it's built on a foundation. There are far too many people in the United States today, when it comes to their politics, that have no solid foundation. They have no real political principle. They just care what their team is doing. And that's all of these people yelling at me because I'm criticizing Trump when he violates the Constitution. They don't have any principles because all they care about is that their guy is in charge and their guy is winning. And it's really amazing to see this attitude of pragmatism arising, especially in the hardcore Trump circles, because they hated Obama when he issued executive orders. They hated Obama when he expanded executive power. But when their guy's doing it, oh, this is great, or we can justify it, or, well, Obama did it. Look, I get it. I used to be one of those guys, right? I used to be the hardcore Republican. I would generally defend anything the Republicans did. I would attack everything the Democrats did. I was a Rush Limbaugh fan. I could parrot everything that he said. It's pretty clear why. I was completely focused on the political game. It was about winning, not actual political results. And here's what I mean by that. I'll give you an example. I've always believed in fiscal responsibility, right? We should have small government. Government should not be spending trillions of dollars. Well, the Republicans talk about fiscal responsibility, so I voted Republican. Every election cycle, I cheered on the Republicans because, hey, they're the party of fiscal responsibility. Somehow, I completely missed the fact that they were spending money just like the Democrats. There was no fiscal responsibility. It was all talk. But I bought it hook, line, and sinker because, well, I just wasn't paying attention to what they were doing. It was all about the rhetoric. And I think a lot of people get sucked into this mentality. It's easy to do that because, well, that's how the politicians play the game, and that's how they want us to play the game. They want us to play that way because it means votes and it means power for them. Winning isn't about changing Washington, D.C., it's just about winning. Working for the 10th Amendment Center has really changed my perspective. The organization is 100% focused on the Constitution. Like I said, every issue, every time, no exceptions, no excuses. So if a party or a personality upholds and advances constitutional principles, we're going to praise them and support their efforts. And when the party or a political personality ignores the Constitution or works against it, we're going to take them to task. Here's the thing. Neither party really cares much about decentralization and liberty. And most politicians don't care about decentralization and liberty. It's window dressing to help them get votes. They roll the Constitution out when they're out of power and when they want to get votes, when they want to get elected, and then they put it back under that glass and take it back over there to the Library of Congress and wait until next year to pull it out again. That's why we focus on legislative policy at the 10th Amendment Center more than elections. We don't really care about political parties and politics. We care about results. We care about decentralization. And that's why we focus mostly on the state level. It's funny looking back because when I first came to the 10th Amendment Center, I really thought the Republicans cared about the Constitution. And you know what? They do. Kind of like they care about fiscal responsibility. Like I said, it's all just window dressing. Here's what's frustrating from my perspective. I tend to make everybody mad, and this week was a perfect example of that. I was getting criticized and vilified by people who supported me a couple of years ago. And, I guess that's just the nature of the beast, and I can deal with it. I'm a big boy. But here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. Michael Bolden put out a great video last week, and I'll link to it in the show notes page. It was talking about this idea that we need to tone it down. Now that Trump's in power, we need to tone it down, and we need to not be so extreme. Here's what Michael Bolden said. He said, we're not going to pretend to be something we're not in order to be more acceptable to the general public. And amen to that. I'm not going to either. You know what? If you're a Trump supporter and you're going to get mad at me because I criticize Trump when he expands executive power or when he ignores the Constitution, if you're going to get mad at me when I criticize Jeff Sessions because, he wants to continue the unconstitutional drug war, well, I'm sorry. I guess you're going to have to go someplace else because I am not going to violate my principles. I'm not going to abandon my foundation. I don't want my house to be blown down. And when the next progressive is in office, then you can come back and I'll welcome you back with open arms. I'm over the party politics. It's not my thing. The Constitution is my thing. Decentralization is my thing. Liberty is my thing. Well, that's it for this episode of Thoughts from Maharrey Head. We're another 10 minutes closer to freedom. I really appreciate you listening to this show. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor and spread the word. Feel free to send me any thoughts or ideas or angry emails to michael.maharrey@10thamendmentcenter.com. And if you haven't done so already, head over to iTunes and subscribe to this podcast for free. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.